All right, let's roll, folks.
You definitely saved the best for the last.
Yeah, we save the best for the last. I'm a big sports fan, and I hope there's a few other sports fans in the audience, and you will enjoy this. I've introduced Aman before, but anybody who joined us late, he's the founder of the NFT Brewery, where they're working. It's a platform that they're working on different solutions around monetizing, unique ways of monetizing for sports entities or media and entertainment entities, and also working on improving that fan engagement, fan experience, right? So this will be a fun talk. We'll do it as a think of it as a breakout session, right? In a fireside chat format, right? And I'm Chanveer. I've been hosting all day. And I was looking forward to this. So before I begin to set the stage, wanted to see what are the preferences for our audience here, right? How many of you are love or enjoy professional sports? Follow regularly? Okay, there's a couple of hands. Can I hear some names like leagues or whatnot?
F1.
You said F1, okay.
Niners.
Niners, so NFL, right? Anything else? Okay, so that's NBA, right? And any IPL cricket?
For sure.
Okay, cricket. For me, NBA and how about you? One, you follow.
Formula One IPL, they're top of the list for sure.
Yeah, I watched Formula One last the one in that was just a week or so ago. It was,
In Miami?
Miami. That's
Yeah.
right. That was pretty good. Okay, so this I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Any of you have purchased NFTs? NFTs? Okay. More than I thought, okay. And second part, how many of you will continue buying NFTs in the future? Okay, that's it, dramatically drops. I was at Coinbase Consensus, right? And last year, and when they asked this question, I was shocked, right? When the first time I tried to buy an NFT, the gas fees are much higher than the NFT itself. So I'm not buying it. But when they asked that question, the room, 2/3 had raised their hands for buying an NFT, and at least 1/3 was like, we will continue buying. And then I realized it's a much younger audience, right? So that explained it. So we have a couple of sports fans. It's okay if I ask another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, as sports fans, right, when it comes to fan engagement, fan experience, is there something you'd like to see from the league or the team or the athlete? That, like you say, hey, this would be really cool if this were to happen.
Blockchain verified in-game equipment that you could buy as a collectible, verified digitally.
It's a verification. There's authenticity.
Yeah, verified collectibles
Okay.
that you could buy in game or in e-commerce settings or something.
And anybody else?
Like what kind of dress they can wear, or maybe the venue they can go ahead and football, for example. What kind of the kit colors, maybe as a fan
On like,
yeah, sort of thing.
So you want to decide on the kind of their jersey and all?
Yeah, if that's possible as a fan, I can see that.
Yeah, sometimes your favorite team, they come up with an ugly green or something like that. Like, why do they choose that? And actually,
Being able to affect the outcome of the game as a fan.
you affect the outcome?
Yeah, like the E racing, where you can buy the power-ups and it allows the drivers to be able to use the E boost. That's significant.
Yeah, that's.
Fan controlled football, where you can vote on the plays in real time.
Both on the plate, now they're getting creative. And now it's like, okay, it's gone to a whole different level.
yes.
What about ownership? Like having the opportunity to own a piece of a team?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Now we're talking, yeah, right? I think a lot more saying that. I think in NFL, Green Bay Packers is community owned.
Yeah, they're community. Yes.
And in Germany, I believe a lot of the clubs are owned by
Clubs are
families.
community, right? Yeah.
You think a club that is owned by a community of fans could win championships?
Yes.
You believe that? No? Okay.
Well, it depends on what the governance model is, how much money you can spend.
Depends on the coach. at the end of the day. Period.
Depends on the salary cap.
Lots of variables.
Depends on the coach.
Quality of steroids.
And one more, all right, that's not to Raman. What about, having a say in who should be on the roster? Is that asking for too much?
Yeah, but that would be pretty cool. That would be awesome. Like, if you frequently like attend the venue to watch the game, you basically get upgraded to have a say. That would be awesome. Seriously.
Wow. Yeah, then you have a family.
Yeah, then you have a family ownership.
Family voting for their player.
Exactly.
That's not for the good of the team.
The first time I asked Aman that question, he said, yeah, but the owners would never allow that, they never give up that control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
that's
you-
given up to-
Yeah, so here's the thing, you have to incentivize the owners to give up that control.
You have
and
to
bring in
incentivize the coach to give up the control.
What about the players, right? Let's say, for example, in IPL, right? Like I would want, Virat Kohli to play every match. So that comes, a right balance that.
You'll burn him out,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, but
so again, that goes directly to the governance model.
Yes.
Who gets the rights to
Right.
vote on the roster? Who gets the rights to the sponsorship dollars coming in? Things like that. All very interesting.
Well, it would be nice to get rewarded for other things or other events at the same venue that you are at. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, venues have so far been left out of the equation, but all the action happens at the venue.
Yeah.
So there's a physical space that's very critical to sports.
So you have some follow-up questions to delve a little deeper, or you want to, talk about what's possible? I think some of you know, that, I think they are right now allowing fans to maybe choose what armband the captain can play or what song, when a goal is scored. But I thought that's too lame. I mean, it's like, okay, is that really such a big deal, right? And that's where I feel as a fan, I want to see more. So
Yeah.
how do you make that happen?
So the art of the possible is definitely something that, given the Web2 side of things, there are limitations to it. That it's probably possible to have fans vote on one of those voting applications that you fire up on your phone, scan a QR code, vote on what song you want to play at the goal line. But that's where it probably ends, right? And all of the fantastic use cases we are talking about, they really require a much better perspective on how is the team going to work, right? And that goes to the heart of blockchain technology, right? And you can have a number of different governance mechanisms that can be tailored for what exactly are you trying to do? Are you trying to structure it as a DAO and return profits at the end of the year to the owners? Or are you trying to structure it as a more of a fan engagement tool where certain people who may own certain NFTs or certain people who may own certain rights are allowed to vote on the roster of the club, right? So those things require a lot more transparency as well, because otherwise we'll start to get into the dark side of sports betting. If those things are not transparent, it's going to have really lopsided results. Right? So you want to put it all out there and say, okay, this is the incentive, this is the ownership structure, and that's why you have a new way of engaging with the fans. And it starts to set the boundaries for what fans can vote on, what they can do. So I'm definitely excited about those use cases. And I think somebody talked about the physical nature of it. That's the other thing that I'm very excited about is how do you bridge the physical fan experience with the digital fan experience, right? And a lot of times when people talk about digital experiences, they're not really talking about fan experiences, they're talking about user experiences, And those are two very different things, right? So a lot of our conversations we heard today were about how you make the user experience frictionless. Well, that's a problem that has been solved already. We don't need to keep solving that problem over and over again. But now we need to start to move towards what's a good, credible fan experience. And when you go to the F1 race in Miami or in Vegas later this year, right? What do you get as a fan that you enjoy doing? Right? And how does that experience come to you? If it's a matter of purchasing an NFT, I don't think that's as exciting, right? Because obviously somebody who can put down the money can have that experience, and you can have that experience even today. You just need to buy the $10,000 grandstand tickets to have a fantastic experience. But for regular fans, this is where the engagement starts to come together, right? Can you, over a period of time, say that, you know, maybe I'm a Dolphins fan, and I went to the Hard Rock Stadium 5 times in a year. And just because of that, I'm able to claim a better experience next time at Formula, right? I mean, it's the same venue, it's the same set of people. So can you make it much more engaging for that person? Right? I mean, this is a wild statistic, right? 80% of people who go to games or events live within 50 miles of the venue. So that is the target market for these venues. And none of these venues all across the globe, not even one of them really has a good fan experience or loyalty or rewards program for their fans. So that's something that needs to be.
I don't think they see the need, right?
They don't see the need. Actually, now they're starting to see the need because the experience is going into the digital spaces, right? And another wild statistic, right? 55% of Gen Z folks have never been to a live sporting event. Right?
That's a very big number.
That's a huge
If
number.
you go one generation
How
over,
many
you
are
go
there
twice.
to,
For the millennials that at the
metaverse?
Yeah, so for the millennials, it was about 31%.
So it's a sample size like in the US or
US. Yeah,
modified?
and US is the biggest market, right? So,
And is it 100% at the end of the metaverse?
probably not.
That's the Roblox. Roblox has a huge fan base among the teenies and all. I mean, that's a huge population. And
Yeah.
companies like Claire, Mars, Candy Bar and all that set up shops.
Yeah, but, again, Roblox is a great platform, but I mean, I don't want to confuse it with
Yeah.
the real
Yeah.
physical nature of sport itself, or the physical nature of, say, going to a concert, right? One is a purely digital experience. The other one is where you can have a big cross-section of population involved, both in the physical and in the digital spaces. Right? So the venues, going back to your point, the venues are starting to care about it because what they're finding is that they don't know who's coming into their stadiums in real time. Even if you have a season ticket, they know who they originally sold the ticket to, but they don't know where the secondary transactions are. So if I'm in a box, right, I can take 10 of my friends into the box and the venue would have zero idea of who came in with me. Right? So those are, again, things that they have zero visibility into. And there is no way they can get any more out of that population who's inside that venue or provide them with a better experience. Same example, right? If you were at the Miami Hard Rock Stadium for 5 times, the 6th time you go there, or because you have a certain NFT or you have some sort of an affiliation that can be transparently tracked, can the GM come back and to you and say, you know, I'd love to give you a front row seat because you're really cherished fan. So those things can only happen when you have the data. And even if you have the data, doesn't mean that it will happen because now you need to surface the right kind of data. And then on top of that right kind of data, you need to build a very specific use case for identifying and engaging with that fan. So now you've got to bring in the behavioral marketing aspect of it. And that is where I think the untapped opportunity is with respect to crypto, NFTs, transparency, all that kind of comes together with an identity that, for the most part, is anonymous.
And then I think this can, so if, the motivation for an arena or a stadium, we'll start with more, right? In reality, if you take out the modern ones now, Steve Ballmer is building an amazing facility for the Clippers that will be, you know, and I think about 2 billion or something like that, right? And SoFi Center is phenomenal, right? But the Chase Center relatively new, but then there's so many arenas that are not in very good condition. And you end up, the team leaves, right? Like we lost. So I guess this could be huge where, you know, it could translate into much higher revenues for the arena.
That's exactly what the arenas want to do, because how do they make money, right? They make all of their money on selling concessions. Which is again a very
Is that
physical.
bigger than tickets?
Oh, yes, absolutely, because tickets, they get, no, on tickets, they get a percentage of whatever ticket master deal they have, right? But if but concessions like, you buy beer for $15 at this arena, right?
Or more, yeah.
Yeah, $14.95 of that is pure profit,
Yes.
right? So, so that's the point. But there's a limit on how much you can sell physically. There's no limit what you can sell digitally, right? So think about it this way, Barca, FC Barcelona, they have fans all over the world. 95% of their fans will never go to that stadium to watch a game. But will they love to have an avatar jersey? Absolutely. Wow. Would they love to have some voting rights?
But they're looking beyond the arena. This is now for the team or the league, right?
This is, again, there's different ways of looking at it. In Europe, what really happens is that the teams actually own the stadiums too, which is not the case here in the US. So in the US, the teams are mostly tenants in the stadium, right? There is some exceptions, but that's how it's like. Levi's Stadium is not owned by the Niners; they're a tenant. Right? The city of Santa Clara owns that stadium. So, and again, when you look at it, take a step back, it's not only sports that is being played at these venues, there's more stuff that goes on. There's concerts, there's other events, conferences, blah. And again, who are the people who are coming in? People who live within 15 miles of that space, right? That's where you have. So what I'm saying is, it's a fantastic convergence of physical and what you can expand that space to look like in the digital world. Right? So that's where a lot of time we are spending.
Yeah, so we discussed two things. So one is how at the arena level they can benefit, and in cases where the team and it owns the arena, right? And then the much bigger opportunity is, you know, you may have hundreds of millions following the sport, right? But your limit on the arena may be 100,000. Yeah. Rose Bowl 120,000. Okay. So what advice would you give? Now, you on your advisory board, you have, you know, an executive from a very storied team, right?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
We deliberately sought out individuals who can help us, right? So I don't want to take names right now, but this individual, I think this is who you're talking about. He ran the Super Bowl for the last 15 years, right? So there's a lot of insights that we're gaining from just having these people advise us in terms of how to build solutions that can go to the heart of the consumer engagement side of it, right? And what kind of experiences can you bring in? So think about it this way. In a suite, when you go today, at any major stadium, there's really nothing that you can do except for order food, right? I mean, is that the best experience that a physical space can provide you? Probably not, right? So there's now ideas about, okay, let's put in a golf simulator in, right? Coming from Montreal, you might appreciate that. Exactly. Right, so
Do they do jacuzzi or something like that in, hot place like Florida or whatever, you watching the
I
game?
haven't seen jacuzzis, but I was at the,
Private pool or something,
Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't seen that, but I was at the Rogers Center in Toronto. And what they've done is really created a section for families and kids. Like the upper level, they have a huge section where if you're in the center, you can take your kids up there and you can eat and drink and the kids have their own menu. They have slides there. So
That's
that's
taking them away from the game though, right? The focus.
yeah, that is taking them away from the game, but at the same time, it's also getting the younger population, the drop that we've seen in Gen Z, right? How do you make those folks come back to the stadium?
I've seen that in cricket in Australia, I think, where, maybe the adults are watching, the kids are playing, they even have a pool and all of that, right? I've seen that in cricket, right? South Africa, okay. Now, where I was alluding to was, okay, so you have some great advisors and all of that, and, no need to mention names. Based on everything that, your vantage point, what advice would you give these, arena owners, arena operators, et cetera, right? And also, how many of them actually thinking some of this stuff, right? Are they thinking the stuff, or we need to kind of evangelize this?
No, so they're not thinking about any of this stuff. And the precise reason is they don't own the technology. They don't have technical people.
They have motivation though, that they don't.
They have motivation and, but again, so two parts to it. The motivation might be there, but the business model is just not there. Because the folks on the business side, they are still doing search engine optimization to sell their suites, because you don't sell something, it just goes waste, right, to increase revenue. They haven't even thought about the possibilities in the digital. That's number one. Second is, as an industry, it's the lines are very clear. On the broadcast side, where you have all these companies that now have rights, including Amazon Prime, they love technology, the broadcasters, because they love to show you different angles, different set of data, stats, whatever, and those things are available at the snap of a finger. But on the physical venue side, they just are pretty much laggards in adopting technology. There are a few exceptions. There's I would say Mercedes-Benz Stadium Plan. They are one of the leaders, and Caesars Arena, Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. Ironically, they are leaders, right? But apart from that, there are very few venues who look at it as if there's an opportunity. So those are the more friction points than getting them onto Web3, right? Getting them onto Web3 is simple. Hey, you've got an app. Almost everybody now has an app. All it requires is, hey, here's an API integrated with a Web3 wallet, and you can start having a one-on-one relationship with your consumers. They understand that, right? As technology companies, we understand, but that's not where the friction is anymore. That 2 years ago, that's exactly where the friction was. Okay, where do I get a wallet? What is the security? How do my users try to do something like this? And am I taking them away from the game? And even while they're in the stadium, do they have to look at their phones? None of that is a barrier, right? And what you, again, going back, there's probably, like you said, 60,000 people in the stadium, but there's 6 million people watching the game outside, right? Now you've got to think in two different ways of how you want to engage with them. The broadcasters, they're never going to engage the 6 million people, because that's not what they're in for. They're in it for the advertising dollars that are shown during the game, right? They have no incentive to come back and say, okay, I want to appeal
But all
to
6 million can watch the ads that are shown.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So that, but engagement is not an part of
No,
it, right? And that's why I'm saying the experience, the user experience is very different from the fan experience. You cannot confuse the two. So broadcasters, okay, is the user experience great? Perfect. But that's not what a fan wants.
Are you guys happy with what is shown, any follows for cricket or basketball or whatnot? With the kind of analytics and the data they show about, players or, I feel it's very little. Any thoughts?
In tennis, they do a lot. I really like it. When it's US Open, IBM does a lot of that stuff, like my previous company. And I really love it. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I've always had to go to have a second screen, right, to find to find the stats. It's very limited on what the broadcaster does, which really sucks. So, yeah, I don't want to, go off on a tangent here. I don't think I got the answer I was looking for what advice would I give the arena owners, right? Like, hey, to get them thinking about this, right? What can they start with?
The only advice to them is, look, if you want to engage, forget even about engagement. If you want to make more money, adopt the digital means, because that's the only way you can make more money, right? And that's something that universally, I think, every company understands that, oh, I got to increase my revenue.
But yeah, but for them, yeah, it's still.
It's
Talk to
nebulous,
that,
it's
right.
nebulous because, and a lot of the conversations we have, what we figured out is if you go to the teams or the leagues, it's a pay-to-play model, right? So a startup company like ours cannot really survive in that environment. Unless, of course, if we raise a mega round and we tell our investors that, oh, half of this round is going into sponsorship deals. It's not good to happen. Let's be very serious about that. But are there other opportunities where we can tap in? And that's what we're trying to do.
Now, moving beyond the arena, we'll switch to at the league itself, right? Now, outside of the big leagues that make 10 billion, make billions and are valued at 10 billion or over. For example, a lot of smaller soccer clubs in UK are hurting for money, right? They can't afford right players and all of that. How could they leverage Web3 to create some kind of revolution?
And it's universally true, right? It's not just the UK. If you look at the women's NBA in the States here, right? Or the men's soccer,
MLS, right?
MLS, even MLS is kind of
What the athletes
Yeah.
make is very small.
very,
compared
very
to
tiny
others.
as except Messi now,
Right.
right? But that's, and again, that's the exact point that needs to be drilled into these organizations, that the only way you can leapfrog this cycle is by adopting digital leads. Because you have fans that are not physically close to you, but they want to be engaged with you, right? And this is exactly where all the ideas that we heard initially, can I have an influence on the roster? Can I have an influence on the ownership? Can I have an influence on something else? Those things come into play. And this is where I think a lot of our conversations are also focused on, to see if we can enable these with the early adopters. But finding those early adopters is a different challenge.
What will be the first thing they'll have to do, like, sit down, chat with you, and you
Yeah,
have the strategy?
And that's what happens, right? So I'll give you a little bit of a different example, not on the professional sports side, but on the amateur side. So we have 2 customers now that we're working with. And these are, so the first one is a amateur baseball league, right? And another statistic, 3 million kids in the US play baseball every year. 3 million, right? And at the end of the season, what do they have to show for their achievements? Probably such nothing. Because a lot of it is not recorded. A lot of the, whatever is recorded is not verified by the coach. And it might have some sentimental value for the parents, but it really, those records have nothing to offer, right? So this one company, again, they're in a stealth mode right now, so I'm not allowed to talk too much about what they're doing, but they're really tracking the athlete's journey, right from, say, age 8 to 16. And in between 13 and 16, they start getting scouted by the major leagues, the minor leagues, the colleges, etc. Right? And now, if the scouts at that point have a full list of their records, right, on-chain records, transparently available, verified by a coach, so on and so forth, that makes a whole lot of difference than saying that, oh, I just had a bad day at the trials and I didn't make it. But if you have a record, then the scouts can go back and say, oh, this was your work ethic, and this was how you were playing. These are the situations where you really performed well under pressure as well. So one off day, anybody can have, right? So it's a more comprehensive record.
But that's all just data, right?
It's all data.
Is there an NFT involved with that? Is there a wallet or something that comes?
So all of this data is on chain. So that's where you have.
So that takes care of the proof of your
Yeah.
authentication and
Yeah.
all of that validation.
Yes, exactly.
Without that, that'll be missing, that'll be a hole.
Yeah, without that, again,
The coaches cannot confirm, right?
nobody can confirm
So
that.
then blockchain becomes very valuable in that.
Exactly, exactly. So this, again, this is one use case where we're working.
Did you all have to go to them the solution, or they came to you with the problem, or?
It actually happened over a couple of drinks in Vegas. Right, so we were just chatting but not to minimize the effort, it's taken us almost 2 years to build out this use case. Because how do you build something that, first of all, doesn't exist, and then showcase the value to the stakeholders?
The sheer amount of, your research itself will be like, you gotta really understand their world.
It starts with the use case, right? I mean, a lot of people here in the panels talk about what is the use case. You have to really start there. And then work backwards. So 2 years ago, for sure, the tech elements were not in place. That only started changing sometime last year, where we said, okay, now is the right time. So the first year was like, just wait and watch. It's a great idea, can't do it right now, because you run into all those, the trilemma problem, right? Scalability was a big factor, but now it's there. These guys are looking to get maybe like 85,000 kids this year. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll change gears now and then we'll start wrapping up. Do you see any impact on, now all the big teams have scouts where they get the talent, especially like in Africa, they get all these young soccer players at a very early age, and they kind of incubate them, or for lack of a better term, right?
Even
That
in
area, even
New Delhi,
in Delhi.
like FC Barcelona has a training academy in New Delhi.
And I know the Mumbai Indians had a very young South African bowler, you probably know, right? Marco Jensen. I think Mumbai Indians got him very early, right? So can that area be impacted by Web3 or wherever?
Of course, because ultimately you want to be able to trust that the recruits from a particular region meet a certain standard for your club, right? So now that your operations are decentralized, wouldn't it be fantastic if your tech is also decentralized? Right? With the right consensus mechanisms, with the right credentialing system on it, so that you can't really fudge that, right, and gain an unfair advantage.
I didn't catch the business value there though, right? You go for technology, but where in that process could an improvement be made, like in scouting, for example? I'm sorry, I just pulled this head view, right?
I know I'm being purposely vague on it, but that's what the value to the company should accrue, right? But the point is that it's, think of it as, what would you do to, if you were playing a sport when you were younger, what would you do to have those memories all in one place, right? How would it impact your family, your friends? Would they want to own certain part of that history? And let's say if you're LeBron James and you actually made it to the NBA, what would be the value of what you were doing in your practice sessions be? So a lot of speculation goes on into these NFTs, right? But if there's an NFT of LeBron, 16-year-old, dunking something from mid-court,
And no one else has it.
and nobody else has it, what does that do? Or if there's a limited copies of it floating around somewhere, And it's all verified, it's all checked by the coach, and yeah, it's a genuine collectible.
Okay, we could go on and on, but I want to wrap up. Any questions from the audience for Aman?
Not a question, but because I work with Aman, I just want to basically highlight two things. One is, even in the amateur leagues, there are companies that actually, their bread and butter is actually working with the amateur athletes. So they have a vested interest in working with us in order to be able to monetize better and increase their incremental revenue, number one. Number two, we are also working with the Hollywood and the Bollywood studios in the entertainment side who want to tap into taking the entertainment, which is their bread and butter, and actually make it more amenable, to the Gen Zs and so on and so forth. And in that regard, I cannot say much, but we are working towards building a Web3 entertainment adjunct solution as part of their overall.
And that's a good point that saying this bringing up, because if you look at the fans, right? Fans of Avengers are probably, there's a good subset of them that'll be fans of, say, the Niners, right? Where is that intersection? If you have the data and the right data, you can make those associations, right? And if you have that data, then a lot of these brands and retail companies, they all want to market to them. Now you can open up a lot more business models around it.
Very cool. There's a question here.
When you started talking about baseball and the history that you capture, right? I'm just start thinking about the college application, right? Okay, that's probably for colleges who are admitting, top stars. It's probably a very valuable data, right?
Yeah.
If it is authenticated.
Yeah. And it's not just one sport, you can do multiple sports. You can see over there, right? Huge opportunity right there.
Beyond name, image, likeness, is there any other ways athletes could monetize their, or disrupt the current, system in place, right?
Yeah, plenty of that, right? So I don't, NIL deals kind of get clubbed into this one monolithic thing, but if you start peeling the layers of the onion, right? Now you can have your actual contracts with your agencies registered on blockchain. So anytime the agency markets you get paid, right? And that doesn't happen today because a lot of small markets where they're using your images, they just don't have any way to keep track of it. From a fan experience perspective, if you're in college trying to make it to the pro levels, you probably need a lot of money and use it as a fundraising tool to say, okay, these are my NFTs and, follow my journey as an athlete. And if I'm successful, it's like any other investment, right? So this probably borders on the investment.
And they also are like angel investors, so.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much the profit, but.
But they're just supporting somebody, exactly. Then can I come up as in college athlete, can I come up with my own merchandise, digital merchandise? Much lower barrier than launching my own brand otherwise, right? And probably easier to get viral on than
What's the digital version? May not be a shoe or anything like that, right? But it could be.
So if you are
an example.
if you're familiar with Ready Player Me, right? They're an avatar company, and their avatars are now embedded into so many different metaverses.
So it actually can have your own avatar,
Your own avatar with your own jerseys, or whatever you want to adorn them with, right? So again, these are new revenue channels. These are, and I kind of really empathize with those because when I was younger, I was buying those banana skins, right? They cost like $2 back in 2001, 2002, but I was buying those. So it's going to be very similar.
With that, final question, for all the categories that were covered, right? Your unbiased thing, there's capital markets, there's real estate, there's professional sports, there's climate. What would be the top 3 industries that will be the most disrupted? if you had to make a pick?
Yeah, I'm glad you said three because we only focus on three. First is sports entertainment. The second
Do
one
you
is,
think that's the biggest opportunity? It almost seems right.
it's untapped, right? Despite all the e-gaming, mobile gaming, the real sports entertainment market is untapped. I would say, from a digital perspective.
You didn't tell me to ask that question, man. I'm very glad.
The second one is retail and brands. And there's a big reason for that is because it's
And it's very similar to
yeah,
sports.
it's
right? Very
adjacent to that. And the third is new age financial assets. So like carbon credits is a big push right now. And not to say that real estate tokenization and all of those are not part of the plan, but they really require a little bit more on the regulatory side to make them into a sustainable opportunity, at least from our perspective.
Awesome.
For the carbon credit, follow-on question, which industry do you see that?
I'll deflect that question to Sonia.
Thank you. I just want to get your opinion, that's fine.
You can hold it for offline, and you guys are friends, so we have a good conversation with beer. So folks, give it up to Aman for joining us today. That was a great conversation.
Thank you.